It's a scenario where everyone wins, and most importantly, you. A mistake we make as recruiters is waiting until the end of the process to start talking compensation and establishing those clear expectations. We always know that a candidate is in range, but perhaps we don't establish on both ends that mesh point. Getting those expectations and establishing them early also helps prevent a candidate from raising expectations late in the process once they know they are being favored, and it prevents a client from lowering starting salary after they interview candidates. Both situations make putting deals together very difficult for you. Most of the time, I think we're nervous to talk about compensation early because we're afraid that a candidate or a client may back out before the process even starts. And we think in our minds, if they just talk to each other, they'll love each other so much, we'll get it worked out. If you've done your homework and present opportunities the right way, that won't happen. If it does, it is better that it happens early in the process before you've spent a bunch of time. So it's a win-win situation. When a deal falls apart in the end, especially if it comes down to money, we as recruiters are the ones who look bad, and we take the blame from both the client and the candidate. Talk about money early, talk about money often, close candidates low and close clients high. Remember, when everyone wins, you'll get more searches and you'll get more referrals. We often hear recruiting is a numbers game. More calls, more calls, more calls, which, trust me, it is very, very true. However, we also hear work smarter, not harder. There are adjustments that we can make in our daily activities to increase our chances of success. And these techniques that I discussed with you today are ways that I really feel that we can work smarter. Today at your desk, make it a point to recruit an MPC and data sheet them with more purpose than you ever have in the past. Get to know them better than any other candidate in your database. Find out what they like to do outside of the office. Find out what their kids' activities are, what they're famous for. Learn what their staff says about them. Give them a hard time if their sports team is struggling. We are working with people. Enjoy yourself while you learn about someone else. That's probably why you got in this business. Don't cut corners on data sheets. An MPC is an MPC, and if you don't place them right away, you probably will later. When you spend that kind of time getting to know someone, they remember you. And when you call them 6 months later and say, hey, I think you should really consider this opportunity, they are going to consider it because they respect your opinion and knowledge, and most importantly, they believe that you truly understand what is important to them. Be sure to watch Carol Wenham's video on candidate control and bear hugging your candidates. It will be good for your business. Prepare candidates for interviews like you will starve if they don't get the job, and do it every time with every candidate. You work too hard and put in too many hours to leave it in the hands of your candidate to prepare on their own. Take pride knowing that if it comes down to 3 people for a job, your candidate will be the most prepared and the most rehearsed. An interview is really just an audition. Make sure your candidate gets the part. Everyone should know their send-out to placement ratios. Take a look back at last year's billings and your send-outs. Recalculate it if you increased your send-out to placement ratio by just 1. If your current send-out to placement ratio is 6 to 1, figure out what your billings would be if you could get that number to 5 to 1. That's probably 3, maybe 4 extra placements last year. Your billings and income will increase when you have better prepared candidates. Close early, close often, and close smart. No one wins in the game of negotiating unless everyone involved feels like they have gotten a good deal. A client that feels that he has to pay too much for a candidate on top of a recruiting fee is a client that in the end just won't extend an offer. A candidate that gets a lowball offer, or even just an offer simply below their expectations, is a candidate that isn't taking the job. Talk about compensation early. Talk about compensation often. Don't let deals fall apart at the end of the process. Make deals come together at the beginning. Recruiters love quotes. I guess it's probably that motivation side of us. So I'm going to leave you with one of my favorites. Thomas Merton said, "The greatest human temptation is to settle for too little." Don't settle for anything less than achieving your goals and dreams. You are in a career that will allow you to achieve whatever you want. Thanks again for listening to me today, and happy head hunting.